Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm here with the weekly astrology forecast for the week of November, 2nd to 8th, 2025. It's worth noting that I'm also going to be putting out a November general forecast, as well as we have a full moon this week. And there are some converging themes that we're really going to start to feel this week. And one of the overarching themes this month and this week is to be present with what is and to remember that this now moment is a product of everything from the past. Remember that we are the creators, but also to remember that we are not fully in charge of everything all the time. We're co-creators of this world, of, of this life. And so trusting in the timing of things happening. And that being said, that I think we're going to start to be able to see a lot of things, and it's going to be moving the changes that we're going to have downloads for changes we want to make, the way we want to upgrade our world, but also not to rush it, because this whole end of 2025, some of these things we're going to get inklings about, and it's not going to be until the first half of 2026 when things are really going to start to, the seeds below, they're going to start to make themselves known, where the seeds are below the ground right now. Maybe they're starting to plant their roots, and they're alive, they're kicking, but they're not pulling their little seed heads up above the ground to prove to us in the 3D world that things are happening. So the one of the themes here, and I'll touch on it with this week's astrology and in November, is do we believe in the things that we cannot see? Do we believe in energy? Do we believe that we're creators? So let's go ahead and get started with what's happening on Sunday the 2nd. As I am recording this, we have Lady Venus in the late degrees of Libra opposing Chiron and Eris in Aries. So that's an interesting mix, because the anaretic degrees of Libra can also be the shadow side of Libra, or the challenging aspect of Libra. And if Libra is challenged, it can be that it's too wishy-washy, because Libra is the scale, sees both sides, wants to have this sense of harmony and justice. Chiron and Eris and Aries are reminding us that there is a truth, and our truth matters, and that there is a time to be able to stand in our truth and stand in our power. So that's the challenge of how this week is kicking off, and it's a theme that continues throughout this week. We also have Venus by quintile Uranus, which is really cool, because a biquintile in general is helping us understand our creative talents. But Uranus in Gemini is just really lighting us up to remember that it's our creative talents. We have the natural capacity. If we are the high technology we seek, we are the change, we are the powerful creators in this world. It is us, is our creative talents that are naturally going to be our hands in the clay to create this bright, beautiful new world. We also have some more challenges on Sunday, and this kicks off the week. And this is part of this theme, where there's going to be throughout November, there's these wonderful things that are happening, but that we're also still in the middle, where there's still these challenges. So we have Venus squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So that's also kind of just telling us that, maybe it's okay. It's time to be with the challenges, not to be upset or reactionary about them, but to be with them, to be present with them, to have our eyes and ears and hearts and third eyes open with these challenges. And we also have Jupiter squaring Eris on Sunday. That square is going to happen again at the end of the month. Jupiter squaring Eris, Eris is all about making sure that it's not just about our selfish, egoic nature, that it's about this grander co-creation, and it's about everyone having value and everyone belonging. And the final aspect on Sunday is we have the sun in Scorpio. We are in Scorpio season, and as I go through this week, you'll be able to feel it. Scorpionic energy is intense. Scorpionic energy is about the truth beneath the surface. Scorpionic energy is passionate. Sun is sesquiquadrate Saturn in the sign of Pisces. And sesquiquadrates are interesting. There's a few of them this week. Squares and semi-squares and sesquiquadrates all present this kind of challenge. so that we can move through if there's a bottleneck, if there's a block in the road. That's a challenge, but that challenge is really for the highest good of where we're going. So it invites us to meet this challenge. But Sesqui quadrates are neat because those challenges have a really good percentage likelihood of coming to some positive fruition if we're really willing to work with the energy. So, Sun in Scorpio is shining the light on what things about our world that we live in, and how when we are, it's within us too, as within, so without, right? So, how can we really feel for what is true and feel for the highest version of what is true? Because Saturn in Pisces is saying, I mean, it is saying that, if there's a challenge, that challenge is because we need to look back at all the wisdom that we've had. We need to really be present with the lessons that we've learned, with the things that we know, and also to be willing to be open to taking another round, taking another go at the whole cycle of life, the whole circle of the year, there's a newness that comes with, Saturn at the kind of end of Pisces. That's just Sunday. That's just today. But that also is part of the theme that's going to weave through this week. So I'll go a little bit more quickly as we keep going. Monday the 3rd, we have Venus at the late signs of degrees of Libra, and she's going to be quincunx uh, Saturn in Pisces, and that just is going to mean that we're going to realize that there's some things that we can shift. We can shift. If there's things that we don't like, we can shift. We can be the one that chooses how we vibrate emotionally every moment of every day. It's fully within our control. That's what's coming through on Monday. And we also have Mars at the very anaretic degree of Scorpio trining Neptune. So the anaretic degrees of Scorpio might be those shadow parts of Scorpio that are, it's perfectly that it's trining Neptune, because it's about this illusion and delusion. So if we go too far down the conspiracy rabbit hole, we might leave our bodies and not really be able to work with what is present. So the trining is really going to help us to say, oh, aha, like this is what I feel is true, and I'm gonna push pause on this other thing until I within my, and it doesn't mean we need physical evidence. It's about feeling the vibration of what is true for us, because your truth is all that ever matters. On Tuesday the 4th of November, we have Mars moving into Sagittarius. And what's interesting about this Mars at the last degrees of Scorpio, Mars at the first degrees of Sagittarius, this is something that's been operational since the end of October. It's going to be operational till it's like I think it's the 12th or 11th of December, because Mars is doing this interesting retrograde, and it's hovering right in this area. And this area is what? It's the last degrees of Scorpio and the first degrees of Sagittarius. And we're going to get a chance to really be in this dance because of its retrogradation. We're going to see a couple themes. We're going to be able to work with a couple themes. But Mars at the first degree of Sag is reminding us where we came from and why we're here. So there's this opportunity for Mars in Sag, especially at the early degrees of Sag, to have this childlike innocence. Remember when you were a kid and you believed that your imagination was what created reality, and then your parents told you that it's just your imagination, as if your imagination was somehow bad. That's the newness of Sag, and Sag is pointing its bow at the galactic center, which is reminding us that we are all star stuff, that this beautiful incarnation on this planet is just a part of this vast cosmic dance. And there's this newness, there's this childlike innocence that comes with it, and there's this ability for us to own it, to open up. And so there's also showing us that we're in this time of the year. The veil is thin right now. We just had, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, Samhain. That means that we're going to be reminded in a very physical way that there's so much more than this physical world. That's kind of one of the overarching themes in November in general. Tuesday the 4th, so Mars is in Sag, and Mars is doing a couple things. It's biquintile Chiron in Aries, and by nature, because Chiron's conjunct Eris, also Eris, and that's going to remind us that if we are star stuff, and if we're so much more than just these people plugging around in this mundane physical reality, then what's possible? What do we know? How can our challenges become the opportunity for the most magical transformations? We also have Mars opposing Uranus. And so there's all of these aspects are, there's going to be a theme throughout November, and I'll get to that in the forecast, of the kind of disruption of the status quo. Some of that's going to feel like, yes, I'm ready for that to change. Some of it's going to feel like, oh no, I don't know if the boat should leave the harbor yet. Trust it. On the 5th, Wednesday, I have a whole other podcast. We have the full moon. So I'm just going to let that be and let you know that this whole week is perfectly timed to welcome in this full moon. On Thursday, the 6th, we have Venus at the 29th degree of Libra. So the very, 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 very last degree of Libra, quincunx Neptune. And Neptune's also at the anaretic degree of Pisces. And so, that's going to remind us that there are things that we haven't been able to see. If we're talking about the scales of justice, Venus is very much at home in Libra. She rules Libra, right? But the scales of justice, if we think we've understood, if we know everything and we're ready to make that judgment, not so fast. There's so much that we know that's going to be uncovered. There's so much more than what we think to be true right now. There's so much more that's going to be revealed and going to, pardon the chickens. I don't know if you guys can hear my chickens are making their chicken noises. They make this noise. It sounds like they're little baby dinosaurs. That's what they're doing back there. We also have on Thursday, Mars and Sag sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. That's very fortunate for us to remember that we are star stuff, us to remember that there's so much more types of intelligence that we can even remember, excuse me, and that there's this larger picture that's even above and beyond where we live, the country we live in, the planet that we live on, that there's this vast cosmic intelligence. Sun in Scorpio sesquiquadrate Neptune. So that's also going to be reminding us that these challenges that we're moving through right now are very much about the theme that there's so much to be revealed. There's so much to be upgraded. There's so much to be released. There's so much to be created. And we're going through this massive, massive, massive collective and personal transformation right now. The same day that Venus is at the anaretic degree of Libra, at the end of that day on Thursday, she's at 0 degrees of Scorpio. So that day is going to feel very dynamic, likely. And at 0 degrees of Scorpio, quincunx Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini is going to say that there are adjustments. There are changes. There are ways that we can change. There are things that we're going to be able to say, oh, aha, I can take ownership of this. That's all part of this theme of November and part of the theme for this week. We're never stuck. But also, it's not time to push. It's not time to charge ahead. It's not time to, Mars and Sag is very different than Mars and Aries. This isn't the charge, go, like bulldoze things over. This is read the room, read the energy, read your instincts, read your intuition, trust it. Friday the 7th, we have Pluto in Aquarius semi-square the North Node, which again indicates some challenges. We're sensing that there's this vast collective consciousness that we're part of, and yet we're just like we're like a little kid trying to learn to walk with this concept. We're trying to learn how to get on the bike, let alone ride the bike, and it can feel challenging. The aspects on Friday are reminding us it's okay. The challenges are as much a part of the journey as the joys are. And it doesn't mean we always have to live in challenges and expect challenges, but it means that let's be present with the challenges. That's the other theme that's coming through. We also have Venus in the early degrees of Scorpio sesquiquadrate the North Node, and by quintile Saturn. So there's going to be challenges is what that says, but also there's this sense that we're never stuck. We have wisdom from the past. We have wisdom from our ancestors. We have wisdom of people who have walked this planet before us, who have become energetic masters, who know how to use their creative consciousness. And part of what's happening right now on this planet is that type of magical energy that avatars carry, that the Buddhas and the Gandhis and the Jesuses carry. They've all said it. They say it's for everyone, right? But now it's time for us to be that change and to step into those shoes. So it's a really good time to be working with energy and learning to read energy. And I'll put a plug for something that I'm doing in a couple weeks to help you with that. It's a free 4-week event. But before I get to that, let's close out the week on Saturday, the 8th. We have the Sun in Scorpio trining the North Node. And this is going to feel a little bit like a breath of fresh air. There's going to be some wind in our sails here, and we're going to be able to maybe just take a seat, kick up our feet, and look with gratitude and joy at this beautiful world that is going through a massive transformation. So if you're on my email list, you're going to get the invite. But even if you're not on my email list, I'm inviting you here. I'll put a link for how you can join my email list. But I'm going to be doing every Saturday a workshop on energy healing and astrology and herbalism. And the herbalism is specifically to support us, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, in moving into cold and flu season. There's a lot of things that you have in your pantry already that I want to, if you don't already know, I want to teach you how to use them. I want to empower you to, if you feel called to work with the plant kingdom. I also want to empower you to dive deeper into this astrology stuff. Astrology for me is just so comforting is not the right word. It's empowering. It takes the self-blame and the what's going on out of the equation and says, oh, this is actually just how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to be doing a free 4-week event every Saturday for about an hour on Saturday, and it's going to be on Zoom, a time for us to come together. So if you want to join me, please just make sure that you're on my email list. All right, bright blessings, tons of love, and have a blessed